As most of you know, I do money making vids and also vids about botters, but this is the first because it is actually both at the same time. In fact, this is potentially the greatest moneymaker I have ever seen. It started off with just a tip about high alch bots in World 308 in the Varrock West Bank, where accounts with incredible amounts of experience were buying from the people smithing here, and some of those even had 200 million smithing experience. This whole operation is overseen by some of the best and worst dressed players in the whole of RuneScape. It's a little bit like the Mafia, only far less intimidating. Some of the accounts that trade here are in max gear and displaying items such as the Elysian Spirit Shield, and not only don't they mind showing their wealth, most players here are actually trying to show it off. If you've never used World 308, you will probably be surprised to know that it's actually a free-to-play world and a world meant for PvP. Those entering the best dressed competition, usually in the middle of the bank, have very different stats. It is clear that some also high alch or smith and have tens of millions of XP. Others are their main accounts either maxed or nearly maxed, while some stand there for hours who don't even have the stats to alch or smith any of the gear on offer here. So what the hell is actually going on? Well, all of this started with a very legitimate clan called World 308 Anvil, made by someone who realised that anyone wanting to alch for a profit was restricted because of the buy limits on the GE. So they created a clan where the people smithing and the people alching could work together and both make a profit. Those smithing would get paid slightly over the GE price, and those high alching no longer had to worry about buy limits and could still make a profit themselves. And they could all do it here in the same world while dressed as an elf, headless man, unicorn, Mrs. Christmas, or a cow. It's hardly surprising a lot of money is spent on accounts here, as looking around, most players have tens of millions of either smithing or magic experience, and with all of the money on show here, it will always attract the interest of botters and gold farmers. In fact, even the Steven bots paid a visit here, which are a bunch of bots that have been created just for fun by someone, and you can give commands to it for it to do certain tasks for you. The person here decided to order these poor Steven bots to their death by telling the level 3s to attack the guards. But these weren't the bots I was looking for, and it didn't take me long to find another one. However, the first one I found was actually a wood cutting bot that somehow managed to get itself stuck underneath the bank where there are no trees whatsoever. But I knew there was some here smithing or high alching, as I had already found an advertisement for a bot program on a very well known site. Specifically for the World 308 Anvil Discord, and even using their current prices. But finding those bots would prove to be a very different matter altogether. Looking around, everyone seemed to have a ton of experience. Some were dedicated smithers or alchers and would just have experience in those skills, whilst others would be self-sufficient and would have high stats in both skills. To add to this, each type of account could have stats you expect to see on a main account, a maxed account going for 200 million smithing or magic XP, or stats of a regular or new player. Typically, one set of stats stood out, and that was those with only smithing or magic experience and level 1 or very low levels in every other stat. But surprisingly, most of these accounts were having conversations or would reply to me when I spoke to them, which I don't mind admitting confused the hell out of me initially. But there is a good reason why there are so many genuine accounts created just to come here and alch or smith with so much experience. At level 88 smithing, adamant plate bodies become profitable, and at level 99 rune 2Hs, plate legs and plate skids give an 883 GP profit each one you create, and even more if you slow buy the rune bars for a lower price. That works out around 500k per hour, and if buying the bars a little bit cheaper, the players here say they make 700k per hour. Semi-AFK on a free-to-play account whilst also gaining a ton of experience. In fact, according to the wiki, the best current free-to-play moneymaker is 443k per hour, and this is so chill, some are doing it on 3 or 4 accounts at the same time. And to get their smithing up to this level, they are simply buying a bond and using blast furnace, making millions in the process until they can do the more AFK method. But as good as this free-to-play moneymaker is, it's not remotely close to as much as those dressed to impress in the middle of Varrock West Bank are actually making. Whether these legitimate players pose a problem when looking for the bots that I know are here. How do you possibly spot those that are botting when everyone is doing exactly the same thing? With the high alch bots, it is nearly impossible, and you may have even seen videos where people use things that rotate, such as a drill that clicks their mouse with each rotation, which is carefully positioned over the high alch spell and stack of items, so they can high alch without using a bot. But if you have high alch, you will notice that even if you press the spell a little bit too early, it stacks the next action, so there isn't a delay between each high alch. That means you high alch without stopping, and only if you mess up is there the occasional gap. However, if you watch the person here on the right, you will notice that there is consistently a half a second delay between every single cast, which means they are using something that clicks at perfectly timed intervals. The cast is too late for the stacking mechanism, but is still always perfectly timed around half a second late every single cast. I watched this person for hours and the timing never changed once. But that is just a mistake on their part. If they had set up whatever they were using to be a little bit earlier, I would have never possibly known. And finding the smithing bots posed a similar problem. Knowing that many of these accounts are legitimate, how do you tell which ones aren't? I looked for different patterns in their methods, and the only telling thing was how quick some of them banked, and it was always those with incredible amounts of experience. So I decided to test myself against one. I was following them so I could move exactly when they did. I had my mouse pre-selected on the bank ready to open. The bank was set up to open on the correct tab, and I had it set up so I could one click to deposit my items and one click to withdraw the bars. Surely an ultra competitive tryhard like me, ready to try and deposit just once as fast as possible, would beat someone on their 1000th time of banking, but not only did I get beat, I lost by a good 5 or so paces. But of course, I wouldn't feel comfortable labeling someone with that pathetic evidence, especially when they could have practiced banking this way a million times, so I needed something a bit more substantial. I then noticed 3 accounts all with very similar names, which were quite clearly a main and 2 alts called YWM, YWM alt and YWM2. Whilst there was nothing too unusual about this, since many players here have multiple accounts due to it being semi-AFK and doable on so many accounts, this guy was just incredibly quick. For those that watch my Deadman Mo video where I killed Corp on 4 accounts at the same time, or even if you use multiple accounts yourself, you will know multiple clicks between screens takes time even with a ton of practice. But just watch how quickly this guy banks, deposits and smiths the items, removes the bars and clicks on the anvil on 3 accounts at the same time. So I tested myself on just 1 account against his 3, with everything pre-set up like I did the first time, and I couldn't even beat the first account, and this was the closest I ever got. The sad part is this guy is actually maxed, with 200 million cooking experience and 120 million smithing. Even his alt has 82 million smithing XP, he probably has billions in the bank, as well as a 3-letter account name worth a billion GP, and unless he has clicks faster than Odablock, is quite clearly botting. But the one thing I wanted to find was who were the mules here, because if you can catch the account the money goes to, you will catch every bot and every gold farmer that trades it. So I decided to ask around the high-level accounts with tens of millions of XP who were talking while skilling and clearly not botting. Understandably, this community is very tight and they all know each other, and whilst they were all very nice, the only information I got was that there may be some auto-clickers alching, and that even though smithing thought how quick YWM was banking on 3 accounts was highly suspicious. Naturally, I suspected the best dressed players in the middle of the bank to be the ringleaders, as whenever you see players dressed like this in a place with lots of wealth, they are normally either scamming, gambling or luring. So I watched them for days trying to figure them out, and I seen a very strange conversation. This fairly low level account gave one of the high alchers all of his money, saying that he wanted to give him it because he didn't deserve it. The high alcher offers the items back a few times, and then the low level says thank you for the time we have shared, and watch how quickly the high alcher reads that and types out a reply. The low level then tells him to wait and logs onto another 3 accounts in turn, all even lower, and trades him money from all of them, as well as another random account. It seemed to be a conversation designed to appear that this guy wasn't muling and that some random person was just being very generous on multiple accounts. I was in the Anvil CC and I even joined their Discord, yet as I watched a headless man, Mrs. Santa, a cow and a unicorn, but mainly Mrs. Santa for days, they didn't trade the account smithing to get any items. These accounts just sold thousands of Rune 2Hs, plate skirts, plate legs, Addy and D-high bodies using the Discord worth hundreds of millions of GP. Some would alch whilst they waited and occasionally run to the GE, but they never ever traded those smithing, and those smithing never ran to the GE for them to trade there either. It was only then that I realised what an idiot I had been. Outsmarted by an elf in tights. These accounts had arguably found the greatest moneymaker in old school RuneScape, and I had been completely blind to it with my obsession to try to find out if they were real world trading, gold farmers or botting. They flaunt their wealth in front of everyone and everyone presumes it is just from smithing and alching. But these players have found an absolute niche in the market. In front of them they have people who alch 900 items each every single hour, who come here to buy items outside of the GE, and they are safe knowing that a huge supply of bars come into the game daily to create more items. A demand for items is here that will never run out, at a price that is consistent and guaranteed sales volume in the form of a high alch. They have a whole system set up in front of them on a free-to-play world, perfect for alchers, smithers, and those smarter than everyone else. You see, alchers pay around 100 to 200 GP per item over the GE price, which is set by the Anvil CC, and you get kicked if you try to negotiate it in any way, shape or form. The reason they pay more is because buying them themselves on the GE would take forever, as the buy limit for a Rune 2H is 70 every 4 hours. Rune plate legs are the same, and so is the Rune plate skirt. However, if you are selling these items in the Discord anyway, why not buy off the GE? You can make an extra 150 GP on average every single item, so between the 3 rune items that's an extra 31.5k. But they also buy adamant plate bodies, green, blue, red and black D-high bodies, which altogether is around 100,000 profit every 4 hours, but this is a free-to-play world. That means the only restrictions you really have is how many accounts you can be bothered creating and how much GP you have. Because these are incredibly common items and up to 500,000 of each item is traded on the GE every single day, and at 150 GP profit that will be 75 million GP each item, or up to 600 million GP per day for all of them. Even just a small share of that market is incredibly profitable, and as you can see from the Discord, people buy and sell in tens of thousands of items at a time worth hundreds of millions of GP. And all you need to do is create a ton of new accounts, put offers in the GE, then join the Discord to start selling and collect the offers every now and again. And the best part about all of this is that whilst I came looking for bots, and undoubtedly there are many hiding amongst the legitimate players here, I found a money maker on a free-to-play world that involves creating a load of accounts that is a perfectly legitimate way to make money in RuneScape. I wonder if Steven would help me with this.